Book: The Art of Human Hacking: Engineering a More Productive and Meaningful Life by Dr. Joseph Erickson. Part 1. The Invisible Game: Understanding the Rules of Influence. Chapter 1. Hacking, but for people. I was 21, a medical student at Cambridge, and I was on a mission. Not to cure a rare disease or ace my exams, but to get a free coffee. Stay with me here. There was this little independent coffee shop near campus that I loved. The coffee was objectively better than the big chains, but more importantly, the head barista, a guy named Marco with an impeccably waxed mustache, was a legend. He seemed to know everyone, always had a cheerful word, and occasionally, just occasionally, would slide a latte across the counter and say, "This one's on the house, mate." For weeks, I was just another face in the crowd. I'd mumble my order, tap my card, and retreat to a corner with my textbook. I saw others get the coveted free coffee, but the code remained a mystery. It wasn't a loyalty card system. There was something else at play. An invisible game was being played, and I had no idea what the rules were. Then, one Tuesday, I decided to try something different. I'd just been reading a study about the peak end rule, this psychological heuristic where people judge an experience largely based on how they felt at its peak and at its end. So, instead of my usual mumbled latte please, I walked up, made eye contact, and said with a genuine smile, "Morning, Marco. That new floral display looks amazing. How's your day going?" He blinked, a little surprised, but his professional smile turned into a real one. "Ah, thanks for noticing. My wife's idea." "The day's been good, man." "The usual?" "The usual," I confirmed. We chatted for another 20 seconds about his wife's surprising talent for flower arranging. I paid, and as he handed me my coffee, he gave me a little wink. "Have a good one." No free coffee. Yet. But the next day, I did the same thing. And the day after. I learned the names of the other baristas. I asked about Marco's weekend. I remembered he was a fan of a particular football club and commiserated with him after a tough loss. I wasn't faking it. I was genuinely trying to connect, to see the person behind the counter. And then it happened. About 2 weeks into my little experiment, I walked in, and Marco just started making my latte without me even ordering. He slid it across the counter. "On the house today, Allie." I'd done it. I'd hacked the system. But here's the thing. I didn't trick him. I didn't manipulate him or use some sort of dark magic. All I did was shift my focus from the transaction, coffee for money, to the interaction, two human beings connecting. I applied a tiny bit of psychological understanding and a dose of genuine human interest, and in doing so, I not only got a free coffee, which, let's be honest, felt like winning the lottery, but I also started having way more enjoyable mornings. My daily coffee run went from a mindless errand to a bright spot in my day. This, in a nutshell, is human hacking. It's not as scary as it sounds. Now, when you hear the term social engineering, your brain probably jumps to images of spies in movies, con artists, or shady computer hackers tricking people into giving up their passwords. And you're not wrong. In that context, social engineering is about malicious manipulation. It's about exploiting human psychology for personal gain at someone else's expense. But that's not what we're talking about in this book. We're going to reclaim the term. For our purposes, social engineering is simply the art of understanding human psychology to communicate more effectively, build better relationships, and create positive win-win outcomes. It's about learning the source code of human interaction, not to exploit it, but to build better things with it. Think about it. As a productivity nerd, I love learning about new apps, frameworks, and systems that can make me more efficient. We learn how to use Notion, how to manage our calendar, how to hack our study schedule. We put in the effort to understand these systems to get better results. So why don't we apply that same mindset to the most important system of all, the people around us? We're all playing the game, whether we know it or not. Here's the key takeaway that I want you to start with. You are already a social engineer. You're using these principles every single day, whether you realize it or not. When you smiled at the person at the checkout counter to be friendly, you were using the principle of liking. When you told your friend, "Hey, I'll help you move this weekend if you help me with my presentation next week," you were using reciprocity. When you decided to try a new restaurant because it had thousands of 5-star reviews, you were influenced by social proof. Influence is the currency of human interaction. We are constantly, subtly, and often unconsciously influencing and being influenced by others. The problem is, most of us are like I was in that coffee shop initially. We're playing this invisible game without knowing the rules. We're bumping into walls, making unforced errors, and wondering why we're not getting the results we want, whether that's acing a job interview, leading a team effectively, or even, yes, getting a free coffee. This book is about learning the rules. It's about making the invisible visible. By understanding the fundamental drivers of human behavior, you can move through the world with more intention and skill. You can turn awkward conversations into genuine connections. You can persuade your boss to take a chance on your idea. You can inspire your team, negotiate with confidence, and build a network of people who want to help you succeed. This isn't about becoming a different person. It's about becoming more of who you are, but with a better user manual for the world around you. It's about upgrading your social software so you can navigate life more effectively, ethically, and joyfully. So let's start this journey together. Let's learn to hack, but for people. And let's use these superpowers for good, engineering lives that are not only more productive, but also more meaningful and connected. Trust me, it's way more rewarding than a free latte. Though that's a pretty great perk too.
Chapter 2. The 6 Keys to Unlocking Human Behavior. If human interaction were a video game, what would the cheat codes be? It's a question that has always fascinated me. In my world of productivity, we're obsessed with life hacks, frameworks, and mental models to get a slight edge. We learn keyboard shortcuts to save milliseconds, and we design elaborate Notion dashboards to optimize our workflows. We're essentially trying to find the cheat codes for efficiency. So, what if there were cheat codes for human connection? Well, there are. And the best part is, they've been hiding in plain sight this whole time. They're not about manipulation. They're about understanding the fundamental programming of the human brain. The person who first discovered and cataloged these codes is the legend himself, Dr. Robert Cialdini, a professor of psychology and marketing. His book, Influence, is basically the holy grail on this topic. He spent years going undercover to study compliance professionals, salespeople, recruiters, advertisers, cult leaders, yikes, to figure out what makes people say yes. He distilled it all down to 6 universal principles of influence. When I first read them, it was like someone had handed me the user manual for humanity that I'd been missing my whole life. Think of these 6 principles as the master keys that can unlock a deeper understanding of people. Once you see them, you can't unsee them. You'll spot them in advertising, in politics, in your office meetings, and in your own behavior. Let's break them down. Key 1. Reciprocity. The law of karma, but faster. Have you ever been at a restaurant when a friend insists on paying and your immediate gut reaction is, "Okay, but I'm getting it next time"? That's reciprocity. It's the deep-seated, universal human instinct to repay what another person has provided for us. When someone does us a favor, we feel a psychological burden to return it. It's the social glue that has allowed us to build collaborative societies. It's you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Everyday citing. The free samples at Costco are a master class in reciprocity. When they hand you that tiny cup of orange chicken, they know you'll feel a slight twinge of obligation to at least consider buying the giant bag. My free coffee quest from Chapter 1? Pure reciprocity in action. I gave Marco genuine connection first, and he felt compelled to give back. How to use it for good. Be the first to give value with no strings attached. In your career, this means helping a colleague without being asked. In your side hustle, it means creating free, valuable content like YouTube videos or newsletters that helps people. Be generous with your time and knowledge. The social debt will be repaid, often in ways you could never have predicted. Key 2. Scarcity, the limited edition effect. Picture this. You're browsing on Amazon and you see a product you kind of want. Then you see the little red text, "Only 2 left in stock." Suddenly, you really want it. Your heart beats a little faster, your finger inches towards the Buy Now button. Welcome to the power of scarcity. We are fundamentally wired to want things more when we think we can't have them. Opportunities seem more valuable to us when their availability is limited. This is driven by our good old friend FOMO, fear of missing out. If we don't act now, we might lose out forever. Everyday citing. This is everywhere in marketing. Limited time offer, doors closing soon, exclusive one-day sale. It's also why we're more likely to pursue someone romantically who plays a little hard to get. How to use it for good. Frame your requests and ideas in terms of their unique benefits and the potential loss of not acting. For example, when pitching a project at work, don't just explain the benefits of doing it, also explain what the team might lose if they miss this unique opportunity. It's not about creating false scarcity, it's about highlighting what makes something genuinely unique and time-sensitive. Key 3. Authority. The power of the white coat. Imagine a man in a perfectly tailored suit gives you financial advice. Now imagine a guy in a stained t-shirt gives you the exact same advice. Who are you more likely to listen to? This is authority. Our brains are built to rely on mental shortcuts, and one of the most powerful ones is to trust people who seem like credible experts. We automatically defer to authority figures because it saves us the time and effort of having to research everything ourselves. A doctor's white coat, a pilot's uniform, a fancy job title. These are all symbols that trigger our obedience. Everyday citing. It's why toothpaste ads use actors dressed as dentists. It's why we trust a news article more if it cites a Harvard study. It's why in my early YouTube videos, I always made sure to mention I was a Cambridge medical student. It signaled authority on topics like studying and productivity. How to use it for good. Build genuine authority. Don't just put on a suit and pretend. Become a true expert in your niche. Share what you learn. Write articles, make videos, get certifications, speak publicly. When you give advice, ethically signal why you're qualified to give it. Simply saying, "I've helped 50 students improve their exam scores and here's what I've learned," is a powerful and honest way to establish authority. Key 4. Consistency, the hobgoblin of the mind. Have you ever agreed to do a tiny favor for someone only to find yourself agreeing to a much bigger one later? You've been hit by the power of consistency. We have a deep, almost obsessive need to be consistent with what we have already said or done. Once we make a choice or take a stand, we feel personal and interpersonal pressure to behave consistently with that commitment. We hate the feeling of cognitive dissonance, of our actions not aligning with our beliefs. Everyday citing. This is the classic foot in the door technique. A charity worker asks you to sign a petition, a small commitment, before they ask you to donate, a bigger commitment. It's also why writing down your goals is so effective. The act of writing it down is a small commitment that your brain then wants to follow through on. When trying to persuade someone, get them to agree with a small fundamental principle first before you present your larger idea. Key 5. Liking. The unfair advantage of being nice. This one is almost laughably simple, yet incredibly powerful. We are more influenced by people we like. Groundbreaking, I know,
But the science behind why we like people is fascinating. The key factors are physical attractiveness. We tend to think good-looking people are more honest and talented. Similarity. We like people who are like us. Compliments. We love to be flattered. And cooperation. We like people who are on our team. Everyday citing. It's why companies hire attractive models for their ads. It's why a good salesperson will try to find common ground with you, like, "Oh, you're from Manchester. My sister went to university there." It's the reason we're more likely to do a favor for a friend than a complete stranger. How to use it for good. Be a genuinely likable person. This isn't about being fake, it's about being intentional. Find authentic similarities you share with others. Give sincere compliments. Look for opportunities to collaborate on shared goals. And for heaven's sake, remember people's names. It's one of the simplest and most effective ways to show someone you see them and value them. Key 6. Social proof. The comfort of the crowd. You're walking down the street looking for a place to eat. You see two restaurants side by side. One is bustling with happy-looking customers. The other is completely empty. Which one do you choose? I'm willing to bet you chose the busy one. That's social proof. When we are uncertain about what to do, we look to the actions of others to guide our own behavior. It's a mental shortcut. If lots of people are doing it, it's probably the right thing to do. It's the reason why things go viral. Everyday citing. Testimonials on a website. Don't just take our word for it. The long queue outside a new Apple store. Even laugh tracks on sitcoms are a form of social proof, telling us when the correct time to laugh is. How to use it for good. Ethically showcase your social proof. If you've built a product, gather and display testimonials and case studies. If you're growing a community, show your numbers. Join 10,000 other students in our Discord. This isn't about bragging, it's about reducing uncertainty and building trust for newcomers. You're showing them that they're in good company. So, there you have it. Reciprocity, scarcity, authority, consistency, liking, and social proof. These are the 6 master keys. Your homework, should you choose to accept it, is to become a principal spotter for the next week. Watch TV ads, scroll through social media, listen in on your meetings. Try to tag every instance of influence you see with one of these 6.
Chapter 3. The Hacker's Mindset. How to think like a social engineer for good. For the first year of my YouTube career, I was obsessed with the wrong things. I obsessed over my gear, which camera to buy, what lens gave the best bokeh, the perfect microphone setup. I am obsessed over analytics. Watch time, click-through rate, audience retention graphs. I treated it like a problem to be solved, a machine to be optimized. And my channel grew, but slowly. It felt like I was pushing a boulder uphill. The turning point came during a conversation with another creator, someone whose channel was absolutely flying. I asked him about his gear, his upload schedule, his thumbnail strategy. He just shrugged. "I don't worry about that stuff too much," he said. "I just spend my time thinking about what my viewer is struggling with and how I can help them. I try to make a video that I know one specific person will find incredibly useful." It was a total bombshell. I was focused entirely on me, my gear, my analytics, my growth. He was focused entirely on his audience. I was trying to be a good technician. He was thinking like an artist. That conversation fundamentally shifted my approach not just to YouTube, but to everything. I realized that knowing all the techniques in the world is useless if your mindset is pointed in the wrong direction. The same is true for human hacking. In the last chapter, we learned the 6 master keys of influence. Those are the tools. They're like having the best camera and the fanciest microphone. But to create anything meaningful, you need the right mindset. You need to stop thinking like a technician and start thinking like a social engineer. An ethical one, of course. This mindset isn't about being cunning or deceitful. It's the complete opposite. It's built on a foundation of 3 pillars: genuine curiosity, radical empathy, and ego suspension. Pillar 1, the superpower of genuine curiosity. Most of us don't listen. We just wait for our turn to talk. We're formulating our rebuttal, thinking of a clever story to share, or just zoning out, waiting for the other person to finish so we can jump in. The hacker mindset flips this entirely. Your primary goal in any conversation is not to talk, but to discover. You need to become a detective of delight. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to find out what makes the person in front of you light up. Cultivating genuine curiosity is the single fastest way to build rapport. Why? Because when you are truly interested in someone, they can feel it. It's magnetic. We are all the main characters in our own movie, and we are fundamentally drawn to people who seem genuinely interested in our story. This isn't about faking it. You can't. People can spot fake interest a mile away. It's about consciously shifting your internal monologue from "what can I say that's impressive" to "what can I learn that's interesting?" Actionable tip: the 5-minute rule. For the first 5 minutes of any new conversation, challenge yourself to only ask questions. You are not allowed to talk about yourself unless directly asked. This forces you out of the waiting to talk mode and into the detective mode. You'll be amazed at what you learn. Actionable tip 2. Listen for the spark. As you talk to someone, watch and listen for the topic that makes their energy level change. Their eyes might widen, they might lean in, their voice might get a little faster. That's the spark. That's the thing they really care about. The moment you spot it, double-click. Ask another question about that. "Wow, that sounds fascinating. How did you get into that?" Pillar 2. Radical empathy. Putting on their glasses. Empathy is a word that gets thrown around a lot, and it can sound a bit fluffy. But in the world of human hacking, empathy is a strategic tool. I define it simply as the effort to see the world from the other person's perspective. It's not about agreeing with them or feeling sorry for them. It's about trying on their mental glasses to understand why they see the world the way they do. What are their pressures? What are their goals? What are their fears? When you can genuinely understand where someone is coming from, you can communicate in a way that resonates with them. You can frame your ideas in a way that aligns with their goals. It's the difference between sending an email that says, "Hey, I need you to do this thing for me," and one that says, "Hey, I know you're aiming to achieve X this quarter, and I have an idea that might help us get there faster." The first is about you. The second is about them. Actionable tip: the 2-minute role play. Before you go into an important meeting, a negotiation, or even a difficult conversation with a friend, spend 2 minutes actively role-playing as them. Ask yourself, if I were them, what would be my biggest concern right now? What would be my ideal outcome for this conversation? This simple exercise can completely reframe your approach from adversarial to collaborative. Pillar 3, ego suspension, your secret weapon. This is the big one. This is the master skill that ties everything else together. If you can master this, you'll be unstoppable. Ego suspension is the ability to consciously and temporarily set aside your own ego, your need to be right, to look smart, to win the argument, or to correct someone. Our ego is our worst enemy in any social interaction. It's the voice in our head that screams, "Well, actually," when someone says something slightly inaccurate. It's the urge to one-up someone's story. It's the defensive crouch we get into when our ideas are challenged. Suspending your ego doesn't mean being a doormat. It's a strategic choice. You consciously decide to prioritize the goal of the interaction, building trust, finding a solution, making the other person feel heard, over your ego's need for instant gratification. I remember being a junior doctor on the wards, presenting a case to a very intimidating senior consultant. Halfway through my presentation, he interrupted me and said, No, that's not the primary concern. The patient's electrolyte imbalance is far more critical." In my head, I was screaming, "But the protocol says to address the respiratory issue first. I'm following the protocol." My ego wanted to argue, to prove I was right, but I took a breath and suspended it. Instead of arguing, I said, "That's a great point, Professor. I hadn't considered it from that angle. Could you walk me through your thinking on the electrolytes?" The entire dynamic of the room shifted. He felt respected and heard. He then calmly explained his reasoning, which was based on decades of experience that wasn't written in my textbook.
By suspending my ego, I not only avoided a conflict, but I also learned something invaluable and built a better relationship with my boss. He saw me not as a combative junior, but as someone who was curious and teachable. That is the power of ego suspension. Actionable tip: use the WAIT acronym. Before you speak, especially if you feel an emotional urge to interrupt, ask yourself, why am I talking? Is it to add value, to ask a clarifying question, or is it just my ego trying to get a hit? This simple cause can be the difference between a productive conversation and an argument. From technician to artist. The 6 keys from the last chapter are the what. The hacker's mindset, curiosity, empathy, and ego suspension is the how. Without this mindset, the principles of influence are just blunt instruments. They can feel transactional and even manipulative. But when you combine them with a genuine desire to understand and connect with people, they become tools of creation. You can build bridges, solve problems, and create real, lasting rapport. Your challenge is simple. In your very next conversation today, pick one of these pillars to focus on. Be a detective of delight. Try on their mental glasses. Or practice the art of waiting. This is where the real work begins. It's time to stop just playing the game and start designing it.
Part 2. The Social Engineer's Toolkit. Mastering the Craft. Chapter 4. The Arts of the First Impression. Hacking Likeability. I still cringe when I think about my first university society fair. As a fresher at Cambridge, I was determined to be the sort of person who got involved. I pictured myself effortlessly joining clubs, making friends, and becoming a well-rounded, interesting individual. The reality was slightly different. I walked into this cavernous hall, buzzing with thousands of students. Booths were everywhere. Archery club, debating society, the Tiddlywinks Appreciation Society. Yes, really. And I just froze. My master plan to be cool and charismatic evaporated. I suddenly felt like I had a giant neon sign above my head flashing, "Awkward first year." I did a lap of the hall, trying to look purposeful, clutching my flyer like a life raft. I'd walk near a booth, make accidental eye contact with someone, and then immediately look at my shoes and walk faster. I ended up signing up for the mailing list of the Poultry Society because the person at the booth looked friendly and I felt too awkward to say no. Spoiler alert, I did not go on to become a chicken rearing expert. I left an hour later having made 0 friends and one bizarre commitment to a club I had no interest in. My first impression on Cambridge social life was that of an invisible, slightly weird dude who really liked chickens. We've all been there. That moment of anxiety before a job interview, a first date, or just walking into a party where you don't know anyone. We know that first impressions matter, a lot, and that pressure can be paralyzing. Psychologists call it thin slicing. It's our brain's remarkable and, frankly, terrifying ability to make snap judgments about another person's trustworthiness and competence within milliseconds of seeing them. Before you've even said hello, the other person's brain has already made a bunch of assumptions about you. Scary, right? But here's the good news. Because this process is so instinctual, it means we can intentionally send the right signals to make a great impression. Every single time. It's not about being fake. It's about being deliberate. Likeability isn't some magical trait you're born with. It's a skill. And like any skill, it can be broken down, learned, and practiced. Here are the 3 most powerful hacks I've learned for engineering a great first impression. Hack number 1, the triple threat smile. Just smile more is probably the most generic advice ever. So let's upgrade it. Not all smiles are created equal. A weak, hesitant half smile can signal nervousness. A massive, instant grin can seem insincere. The goal is to deploy a triple threat smile, which has 3 components. Smile with your eyes. A genuine smile,
the kind that builds real trust, is called a Duchenne smile. It's when you smile not just with your mouth, but with your eyes, creating those little crinkles at the corners. The next time you're on a video call, try it. First, do a mouth-only smile. Now think of something genuinely hilarious and smile again. See the difference? That second one is what you're aiming for. It signals pure, unadulterated warmth. Delay it slightly. This is a brilliant tip from the communication expert Lael Lowndes. When you meet someone, don't flash an immediate smile. Instead, look at their face for a second, pause, and then let a big, warm smile flood your face. That tiny delay makes the smile feel more specific and genuine, as if it's reserved just for them. It's incredibly powerful. Hold it. Don't be in a rush to let the smile go. When you make a great first impression, your warmth should linger. Holding that smile and positive expression for a beat longer than feels normal conveys incredible confidence and approachability. Hack number 2, the name-remembering stack. Dale Carnegie, the author of the classic How to Win Friends and Influence People, famously said, "A person's name is to that person the sweetest and most important sound in any language." And he was 100% right. When someone remembers our name, we feel seen, valued, and respected. Conversely, when someone forgets our name, it feels like a tiny little dagger of insignificance. We all know this, yet most of us claim to be terrible with names. Let's reframe that. You're not terrible with names, you're just untrained. Forgetting a name isn't a character flaw. It's a systems failure. So let's build a better system. I call it the name-remembering stack. Focus. The number one reason we forget a name is that we weren't actually listening in the first place. We're so worried about what we're going to say next that the name goes in one ear and out the other. When you are being introduced to someone, make it your sole mission for those 3 seconds to hear their name. Tune everything else out. Repeat. The moment you hear the name, repeat it back. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Sarah." This does 2 things. It confirms you heard it correctly, and it immediately starts to lodge the name in your memory. Connect. This is the fun part. You need to create a mental hook for the name. The more ridiculous, the better. Let's say you meet a guy named Mike. You could picture him with a giant microphone for a head. Or maybe you know another Mike, and you can briefly picture the 2 of them having a coffee together. It takes half a second and dramatically increases recall. Use. Use the name once or twice more in the conversation. Not every other sentence, that would be weird. But a simple, "That's a really interesting point, Sarah," can work wonders. Then crucially, use it when you leave. "It was great talking with you, Sarah." This cements it in your mind and makes the other person feel fantastic. Hack number 3, the open and up body language protocol. Before you say a word, your body is already talking. Research consistently shows that our nonverbal signals have a massive impact on how we're perceived. When I'm feeling nervous, my default posture is what I call the turtle. Shoulders hunched, arms crossed, head down. It screams, "Don't talk to me." To combat this, I use a simple protocol I call the open and up. Open. Your goal is to seem open and non-threatening, primal brain stuff. Uncross your arms. Crossing your arms creates a physical and psychological barrier. Keep them at your sides or use them to gesture. Show your hands. This is a huge one. From an evolutionary perspective, hidden hands can signal danger. Keeping your hands visible, not stuffed in your pockets, subconsciously builds trust. Point your feet. We tend to point our feet in the direction we want to go. When you're talking to someone, make sure your feet are pointed towards them. If they're pointed towards the door, you're non-verbally saying, "I want to escape." Up. This is about projecting confidence and energy. Head up, shoulders back, The classic advice, but it works. The invisible string. Here's my favorite trick for this. Imagine there's an invisible string attached to the crown of your head, gently pulling you upwards. This simple visualization straightens your entire spine, lifts your chest, and puts you in a posture of relaxed confidence without feeling stiff or unnatural. The ultimate hack for when you're freaking out. Okay, this all sounds great in theory, but what happens when your palms are sweating and your brain is screaming, "Abort mission!" Here's the secret. Shift your focus from internal to external. When we're nervous, we're trapped in our own heads. What do they think of me? Do I sound stupid? Is that spinach in my teeth? The hack is to consciously turn your attention outwards. Make your goal not to be interesting, but to be interested. Use your curiosity. Ask a question. Give a sincere compliment. Make it your mission to make the other person feel comfortable and welcome. When you focus on making someone else feel good, a funny thing happens. You forget to be nervous. So, your challenge for this chapter. The next time you meet someone new, I want you to try the triple threat smile and the name remembering stack. That's it. Just those two things. Notice how it feels. Notice how they react. You're not just hacking a first impression, you're engineering a genuine connection. Now go practice.
Chapter 5. The Superpower of Listening. How to hear what's not being said. As a junior doctor, one of our first big tasks was clerking patients, taking their medical history. I thought I was pretty good at it. I had my checklist of questions, a pen, and a clipboard. I was a professional information gatherer. One day, an elderly gentleman, Mr. Harris, came in complaining of chronic headaches. I sprang into action. Okay, Mr. Harris, on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad is the pain? Well, and is it a sharp pain or a dull ache? It's more of a... Does anything make it better or worse? Bright lights, lying down? Sometimes, I suppose. I fired off questions like a machine gun, efficiently taking boxes on my form. I concluded that it was probably a tension headache, maybe a migraine. I proudly presented my findings to my supervising consultant. He listened patiently, nodded, and then went to see Mr. Harris himself. I tagged along, ready to be praised for my efficiency. The consultant didn't bring a clipboard. He just pulled up a chair. "Good afternoon, Mr. Harris," he said warmly. "IALI tells me you've been having some bad headaches. That sounds awful. Tell me a bit about what's been going on." And then he just shut up. Mr. Harris started talking. He talked about the headaches, yes, but he also talked about how his wife had passed away 6 months earlier. He talked about how quiet the house was now. He mentioned he wasn't eating properly because he'd never really learned to cook for one. He worried about his son who lived far away. He talked for 10 minutes straight. My consultant just listened, nodding, making eye contact, and occasionally saying things like, "That must be very difficult," or "Tell me more about that." At the end of it, Mr. Harris looked up and said, "You know, doctor, the headaches seem to get worse when I'm just sitting in the house alone with nothing to do." The consultant turned to me later. He said, "His headaches are real, but they're not a neurological problem. They're a loneliness problem. We'll run the tests to be safe, but the best prescription we can give him is a referral to a local community group." I was floored. In my quest to be an efficient information gatherer, I had heard all the words, but I hadn't listened to the music. I was so busy waiting for my turn to ask the next question that I completely missed the real story. Are you listening or just reloading? That day taught me one of the most important lessons of my life. Most of us are terrible listeners. We're not really listening in conversations. We're reloading. We're using the time the other person is talking to formulate our own brilliant response, our own witty anecdote, our own perfect piece of advice. Our egos are desperate to jump in and add value. But here's the paradox. The single most valuable thing you can do in any conversation is to stop trying to add value and just listen. Truly listening is a superpower.
It's the fastest way to build trust, the easiest way to gain wisdom, and the most underrated tool for connection we have. And like all superpowers in this book, it's not a gift you're born with. It's a skill you can train. So, let's get you into the listening gym. Here are the core exercises for leveling up your skills from a reloader to a master listener. Level 1, the mirror, active paraphrasing. This is the foundational skill. It feels a bit weird at first, but it's a total game changer. Paraphrasing isn't just mindlessly repeating what the other person said. It's about summarizing their point in your own words to confirm that you've understood. It's a way of saying, let me make sure I'm getting this right. How it works? They say, I'm just so overwhelmed at work. My boss just dropped another huge project on my desk, and I'm already behind on 3 others. I don't know how I'm going to get it all done. The reloader says, you should try this productivity app I use. Or maybe you should talk to your boss and set some boundaries. Here's what I would do. The listener says, so it sounds like you're feeling completely buried right now, and the lack of control is really stressful. See the difference? The first response is about you. The second is about them. It validates their feeling and invites them to say more. Use phrases like, so if I'm understanding you correctly, it sounds like you're feeling... So what you're saying is... Level 2, the detective, asking good questions. Once you've shown you're listening, you can move on to the next level, discovery. Good listeners are like good detectives. They don't assume, they investigate. They use open-ended questions to gently probe deeper. Your goal here is not to interrogate, but to show curiosity. Instead of, did you finish the project? A yes or no question that closes conversation. Try, how did the project go? An open-ended question that invites a story. Some of my favorite detective questions are, how did that feel? Gets to the emotion behind the facts. What was the hardest part about that for you? It shows you care about their struggle. What's on your mind? A beautifully simple and open invitation. Tell me more about that. The simplest and often the best. Level 3, the mind reader. Tuning in to nonverbals. This is where you start hearing what isn't being said. People's words only tell half the story. The other half is in their tone of voice, their posture, their facial expression. You already know this instinctively. When you ask your friend, how are you? And they say, I'm fine, while staring at the floor with slumped shoulders, you know they are in fact not fine. Being a good listener means paying attention to the delta between the words and the music. What to look for? Mismatched signals. Like the I'm fine example. Shifts in energy. Does their tone suddenly get flat when they mention their boss? Do they light up when they talk about their side project? Hesitation. A pause before answering a question can be more telling than the answer itself. When you spot something, you can gently point it out. You say you're excited about the move, but you sound a little hesitant. What's on your mind? This shows an incredible level of attention and care. Your listening challenge, the conversational narcissist test. Ready for your workout? Here it is. For the next conversation you have with a friend or family member, a proper one, not just pass the salt, I challenge you to play a little game. Your goal is to go as long as you possibly can without using the word I. You can't tell your own story. You can't give your own opinion. You can't say, oh, that happened to me once, or what I think you should do is... Your only tools are the ones we just discussed. Paraphrasing, level 1, asking clarifying questions, level 2, and paying attention to their nonverbals, level 3. It is shockingly difficult, but it's also incredibly eye-opening. You will learn more in that 10-minute conversation than you have in a month. And the other person, they will walk away feeling like you are the most brilliant and charismatic conversationalist they have ever met. Because you gave them the one thing we all crave, the feeling of being truly heard.
Chapter 6, The Secret to Great Conversations. How to Ask the Right Questions. When I started my deep dive podcast, I had a secret, embarrassing fear. What if I run out of things to ask? For my first few interviews, I would over-prepare like crazy. I'd have pages of meticulously researched questions printed out and highlighted.
I'd treat the interview like an exam. My goal was to get through all my questions. The conversations were fine. They were informative, but they weren't magical. They didn't have that spark of spontaneity and genuine discovery that I loved in podcasts by people like Tim Ferriss or Kel Fussman. I remember listening to an interview with Fussman, a legendary journalist famous for his profound interview style, and he said something that completely changed my approach. He said that he often throws away his prepared questions and just listens, letting his curiosity guide him. His goal isn't to ask questions. His goal is to listen to the answers. That's when I realized my entire approach was backwards. The quality of a conversation isn't determined by the quantity of questions you ask, but by the quality of them. I was so focused on what to ask next that I was failing to listen to what was being said right now. Great conversations aren't interrogations. They're excavations. You're not just gathering data, you're on a collaborative treasure hunt to uncover interesting stories, ideas, and emotions. And the single most important tool you have for this treasure hunt is the question. Your questions are doors. Think of every question you ask as a door. Most of us spend our lives asking closed-door questions. These are questions that can be answered with a yes, a no, or a single piece of information. Do you like your job? Yes. Are you from around here? No. Did you have a good weekend? It was fine. These questions are conversation killers. They slam the door shut, forcing the other person, and you, to find a whole new door to try and open. It's exhausting and is the primary reason why most small talk feels like wading through treacle. The secret to great conversation is to learn how to ask open-door questions. These questions are designed to invite stories, opinions, and feelings. They're the opposite of conversation killers. They're conversation starters. They typically begin with words like, what? How? Why? Let's re-engineer our closed questions from before. Instead of, do you like your job? Try, what's the most interesting thing you're working on right now? Instead of, are you from around here? Try, what's the story of how you ended up in this city? Instead of, did you have a good weekend? Try, what was the highlight of your weekend? See how that feels different? An open-door question hands the other person a microphone and says, tell me a story. It's a gift. The question ladder, from awkward to awesome. To make this even more practical, let's think about conversations as a ladder you can climb. You can't just jump to the top. You have to go up a few rungs. Rung 1, the surface level. Logistical questions. These are the boring but necessary questions. What do you do? How do you know the host? You need them to get your bearings, but the goal is to spend as little time here as possible. Rung 2, the story level. Open-ended questions. This is where the magic starts. This is where you use your what, how, and why questions to get the other person talking. You're not just asking about their job title, you're asking about the story behind their job. What's the story behind how you got into that line of work? What's a typical day really like for you? Rung 3, the emotional level. Probing questions. When someone shares a story, you can climb to the next rung by asking about the feelings behind it. This shows you're not just listening to the facts, but you care about their experience. Probing questions are the follow-ups that show you're truly engaged. Wow, that sounds intense. What was going through your mind when that happened? How did that feel when you finally got the project over the line? What was the most rewarding part of that experience for you? When you ask an emotional level question, you signal deep trust and connection. You've moved from small talk to real talk. Your emergency toolkit of great questions. Okay, theory is great, but let's build a practical break glass in case of awkward silence toolkit. Here are some of my favorite go-to questions for different situations that you can steal. For networking events or any professional setting. What's the most exciting challenge you're working on at the moment? What's a common myth about your profession that you love to debunk? What's the best piece of career advice you've ever received? For first dates or getting to know someone new. What's something you're nerdy about or could give a 10-minute presentation with no notice? This one is one of my favorites. What does a perfect, no obligations day look like for you? What's a small thing that always makes you happy? For catching up with friends, to get past the I'm fine, you. What's been taking up your brain space lately? What's the best thing you've read or watched recently? How are you? Really? Said with genuine warmth, this can be incredibly powerful. A quick warning on leading questions. You might sometimes hear about leading questions like, "Don't you think that new policy is a terrible idea?" A word of advice, avoid these in normal conversation. They're a tool for lawyers and debaters, not for building rapport. They feel like a trap because they're designed to corner someone into agreeing with you, which is the opposite of our goal. Your challenge is become a question connoisseur. Your mission for this week is become a collector of great questions. When you hear a question in a podcast, in a movie, or in a real conversation that makes you think, "Ooh, that's a good one," write it down. Create a note on your phone called Great Questions. Then, try one out. The next time you're in a conversation that's starting to feel a bit stale, pull out one of your new tools. Ask someone what they're nerdy about. Ask them about the highlight of their week. Don't just ask questions, start asking the right questions. The ones that open doors, build bridges, and turn a forgettable chat into a memorable connection.
Chapter 7. Reading Minds, Legally, The Science of Body Language. I once had to break bad news to a family. It's one of the hardest things you ever have to do as a doctor. I was a 24-year-old medical student, utterly terrified and completely out of my depth. I'd rehearsed what I was going to say a dozen times with my supervising doctor. I had the words down perfectly, calm, empathetic, clear. I walked into the small, quiet room where the patient's husband and daughter were waiting. I took a deep breath and started my carefully prepared speech. "I'm so sorry," I began. "The test results have come back and, unfortunately, the news isn't what we were hoping for." The husband just sat there, staring at his hands, completely silent. The daughter looked me straight in the eye and said, "Okay, we understand. What are the next steps?" Her voice was steady. Her expression was neutral. She was the picture of calm resilience. So I kept talking to her. I explained the prognosis, the treatment options, the various specialists we'd be bringing in. I was making good eye contact with her. She was nodding along, and I thought, okay, this is going as well as it possibly can. She's incredibly strong. But then I glanced at the husband again. He hadn't said a word, but his knuckles were white from clenching his fists. His jaw was so tight I could see the muscle twitching, and under the table, his foot was tapping a frantic silent rhythm against the floor. He was a volcano about to erupt. The daughter's words were saying, "I'm okay," but the husband's body was screaming, "I am not okay." And because I was so focused on the person who was talking, I almost missed the person who was feeling. That day, I learned that people have two conversations at once, the one they have with their words and the one they have with their bodies. And more often than not, the second one is telling the truth. The unspoken conversation. Our brains are hardwired for this stuff. Before our ancestors had complex language, they had to rely on nonverbal cues to figure out friend from foe, safety from danger. Is that person's smile genuine, or is it hiding a threat? Is their posture open and welcoming, or closed and hostile? This ancient instinctive part of our brain is still running the show.
It's processing body language, tone of voice, and facial expressions at lightning speed long before the rational language processing part of our brain has even woken up. Learning to consciously read body language isn't about becoming Sherlock Holmes and deducing someone's life story from a scuff on their shoe. It's about learning to pay attention to that second, unspoken conversation to build more empathy and understanding. Crucial caveat: context is everything. Before we go any further, a massive warning label. A single gesture means absolutely nothing. If someone crosses their arms, they might be feeling defensive, or they might just be cold. If someone is fidgeting, they might be anxious, or they might just have had a triple espresso. Don't be a body language tourist, someone who learns one or two signs and applies them to everyone. The key is to look for clusters of signals, and most importantly, changes from a person's baseline. Your goal is to be a detective, not a judge. With that out of the way, let's build our legal mind-reading toolkit. Channel 1. The face. The window to the soul, or at least the mood. The face is the most expressive part of our body. We're drawn to it, and it gives away a ton of information. The Duchenne smile. We talked about this in Chapter 4, but it's so important it's worth repeating. A real, genuine smile, a Duchenne smile, involves the muscles around the eyes, creating little crow's feet. A fake, polite smile only uses the mouth. Train yourself to spot the eye crinkle. It's the difference between real happiness and social obligation. Micro-expressions. These are fleeting, involuntary facial expressions that last for a fraction of a second and reveal a person's true emotion. They are incredibly hard to spot without training, but the key takeaway is that true feelings often leak out before we have a chance to mask them. The eye contact triangle. Staring directly into someone's eyes for a long time can feel aggressive or creepy. To build comfortable rapport, use the triangle method. Look at one eye, then the other eye, then drift down to their mouth and then back up. Moving your gaze in the small triangular area makes your eye contact feel engaged and natural, not intense. Channel 2. The torso and arms, your open-closed sign. How we hold our upper body sends powerful signals about our confidence and receptivity. Open versus closed posture, this is the big one. An open posture involves uncrossed arms and legs, visible hands, and leaning forward slightly. It says, I'm here, I'm listening, I'm receptive to your ideas. A closed posture involves crossed arms, hunched shoulders, and turning away. It signals defensiveness, disagreement, or discomfort. Remember my turtling at the society's fair? Classic closed posture. Pacifying gestures. When we feel stressed or uncomfortable, we often engage in self-soothing behaviors. These are huge tells. Look for neck rubbing, collar pulling, hand wringing, or fiddling with a watch or jewelry. When you see these, you know the topic at hand is causing some level of anxiety for the other person. Power poses. You've probably heard of power posing, standing like Superman to feel more confident. The science on whether it actually changes your hormones is a bit shaky, but one thing is certain. An expansive, open posture makes other people perceive you as more confident and in charge, and that in turn can make you feel more confident. So stand up straight, take up space. Channel 3, the feet, the most honest part of the body. This is my favorite body language hack because almost no one thinks to control it. Our feet often point where our mind wants to go. The directional arrow. When you're talking to someone, check where their feet are pointing. If they are pointed directly at you, they are engaged in the conversation. If their torso is turned towards you but their feet are pointed towards the door, it's a massive signal that they want to leave the conversation. They are literally ready to walk away. I see this all the time at networking events. The ankle lock. When someone locks their ankles together, often wrapping them around the legs of their chair, it can be a sign that they are holding back a strong emotion or opinion. It's like they are physically clamping down on themselves. Happy feet. When a person is sitting down and their feet start wiggling or bouncing with excitement, it's often a very reliable indicator that they've just heard something they really like or an idea that excites them. Your body language cheat sheet. If you see this cue, it might mean, remember context, crossed arms, defensive, disagreeing, insecure, or just cold. Eye crinkle smile, genuine happiness, trustworthiness. No eye crinkle smile, social politeness, possible insincerity. Neck rubbing, fiddling, stress, discomfort, anxiety. Feet pointed at the door, I want to leave this conversation. Feet pointed at you, engaged, interested, present. Expansive, open posture, confidence, receptivity. Mirroring your posture. I like you. I feel connected to you. This is a huge sign of rapport. Your challenge. Watch TV on mute. Here's your homework, and it's genuinely fun. Putting on a TV show, a talk show, a reality show, or a drama with lots of dialogue is perfect. Now turn the sound completely off. Watch a 5-minute scene and just observe. Who has the power in the conversation? Who is uncomfortable? Can you tell when the topic shifts to something sensitive? Can you spot the moment two characters build rapport or the moment their connection breaks? You'll be absolutely amazed at how much you can understand without hearing a single word. You're training your brain to stop just listening to the first conversation and start seeing the second, unspoken one. It's the closest thing we have to a real-life superpower.
Part 3. The Ethical Hacker. Using Your Powers for Good. Chapter 8. The Good Fight. Using Social Engineering for Positive Influence. Early in my journey as an online entrepreneur, I hit a wall. I was trying to launch my first big online course for medical students, the Part-Time YouTuber Academy. I'd poured hundreds of hours into creating what I believed was a genuinely life-changing curriculum. I knew deep down that it could help people. But knowing it and selling it are two very different things. As launch day approached, I started studying marketing, and I fell down a dark rabbit hole. I saw all the tricks people were using. Countdown timers that were completely fake, creating false scarcity. Original prices that were artificially inflated to make the discount look massive. Testimonials that were, let's just say, creatively edited. I saw a path to making a lot of money using these aggressive, manipulative tactics. A little voice in my head, the one that loves optimization and efficiency, said, "This is just part of the game. It's what works. Everyone does it." I felt a genuine conflict. I had just spent all this time learning the principles of influence, scarcity, authority, social proof, and here was a way to use them on steroids. But then I asked myself a simple question. If one of my students bought the course and then discovered I'd used a fake countdown timer to pressure them into it, how would they feel? The answer was obvious. They'd feel cheated. They'd feel manipulated. The trust, which was the most valuable asset I had, would be shattered. And rightly so. That was my fork in the road. I realized that the tools of influence are like a powerful amplifier. They can amplify a positive message and create incredible value, or they can amplify deceit and create distrust. The tools themselves are neutral. The intent behind them is everything. Manipulation versus persuasion, the critical difference. So far in this book, we've been gathering our tools. We've learned about the 6 keys to influence, how to build rapport, how to ask great questions, and how to read the unspoken conversation. You are now equipped with a powerful social toolkit. This is the chapter where we talk about your user license.
It comes with one very important term and condition. Use it for good. Let's draw a hard, bright line in the sand between two words that are often confused: manipulation and persuasion. Manipulation is self-serving. It's about getting what you want at someone else's expense. It's a win-lose game. It relies on hiding information, deception, and preying on insecurities. The manipulative marketer using a fake timer wants your money, regardless if the course is a good fit for you. Ethical persuasion is mutually beneficial. It's about finding an outcome that benefits everyone involved. It's a win-win game. It relies on transparency, honesty, and aligning your goals with the other person's needs. The ethical social engineer doesn't ask, "How can I get this person to do what I want?" They ask, "How can I help this person get what they want in a way that also helps me achieve my goal?" The three-way win framework. To make this super practical, I use a mental model I call the three-way win framework. Before I try to influence anyone, whether it's a team member, a potential customer, or even a friend, I run the idea through these three checks. Win 1. Does it genuinely help them? Is the action I'm proposing truly in the other person's best interest? Will this project help my colleague develop a new skill? Will this course actually solve a problem for the student? Will this advice genuinely help my friend? If you can't confidently answer yes to this, stop. Win 2. Does it help you or your cause? This is important. Ethical persuasion isn't martyrdom. It's perfectly fine for the outcome to benefit you too. Does it help you hit your team's target? Does it help you grow your business? Does it help you build a stronger relationship? The goal is mutual success, not self-sacrifice. Win 3. Does it build trust in the system? Does this interaction make the overall environment better? Does it contribute positively to the team's culture? Does it build the long-term relationship, or does it erode trust for a short-term gain? A win-win that harms the team or the relationship isn't a real win. Let's see how this works in real life. The inspiring manager. A manager, let's call her Sarah, needs her team to take on a tough, time-consuming project. The manipulator would say, "The board is demanding this, so we have no choice. You all need to work weekends until it's done." Win-lose. The manager gets the project done, but the team feels resentful and burnt out. The ethical persuader, Sarah, says, "Team, I have a challenging new project for us. I know it's a big ask, but I believe the skills we'll learn in data analysis here are exactly what we need to get that promotion budget approved next quarter. I want to lead this because it's a direct path to getting you all to the next level. Let's talk about how we can shift other priorities to make this happen without burning out." Win for them? Yes, they develop valuable skills and get a path to promotion. Win for her? Yes, the project gets done and her team is more capable. Win for the system? Yes, it builds a culture of growth and trust. The community builder. Someone wants to start a study group for a difficult exam. The manipulator might guilt people into joining. If you don't join, you'll probably fail. You don't want to be the only one who doesn't pass, do you? Using fear and negative social proof. The ethical persuader says, "Hey everyone, I'm putting together a study group for the exam. I've already compiled a bunch of my notes and practice questions into a shared folder that you can all access here for free. Reciprocity. My goal is for us all to hold each other accountable and smash this exam together." Liking and social proof. We'll meet on Tuesdays. Even if you can just make the first one to see if it's for you, that would be awesome. Consistency. Win for them? Yes, they get free resources and a supportive group. Win for the founder? Yes, they get a study group. Win for the system? Yes, it fosters a collaborative learning environment. The ultimate litmus test. If you're ever in a gray area, here is the one question that will always give you the answer. If the other person knew my true intentions, would they still thank me? If the answer is a confident yes, you are fighting the good fight. You are using your powers for good. You are persuading, not manipulating. In the end, I launched my course. I used real testimonials from people I'd helped for free. I used genuine scarcity by explaining that I could only offer live support to a limited cohort. I set a price that I felt was fair value for the transformation I was promising. And it worked. Not only did it sell well, but I could sleep at night. I knew that every student who joined had done so with their eyes wide open, and I had built a foundation of trust that was far more valuable than any short-term marketing trick. Using these skills ethically isn't just the nice thing to do, it's the only sustainable strategy for long-term success. Manipulation gets you one-time wins. Ethical persuasion builds you a lifetime of allies.
Chapter 9. The Shield. How to defend yourself against malicious social engineering. Last year, I got an email that made my heart drop into my stomach. The subject line was, "Urgent security alert, suspicious login attempt on your YouTube account." The email looked perfect. It had the YouTube logo, the official-looking red and white branding, and a message that read, "We've detected a sign-in from an unrecognized device in Moscow, Russia. If this was not you, please secure your account immediately by clicking the button below." My brain went into panic mode. My YouTube channel is my life's work. The thought of someone in Moscow hijacking it was terrifying. My cursor flew towards the big, friendly, "Secure your account" button. I was seconds away from clicking it. But then something I'd learned from a cybersecurity expert years ago kicked in. A tiny voice in the back of my head whispered, "Pause." Instead of clicking, I forced myself to take a breath and look closer. The sender's name was YouTube, but when I hovered my mouse over it, the actual email address wasn't from google.com. It was from something like yt-security-logins@mailerdamon.com. It was a fake. A very, very good fake. Had I clicked that button, it would have taken me to a fake login page, stolen my password, and the suspicious login from Moscow would have become a self-fulfilling prophecy. I was one click away from handing over the keys to my entire business, all because someone knew how to expertly push my panic button. The dark side of the Force. Throughout this book, we've been learning how the principles of influence, reciprocity, authority, scarcity are the invisible source code of human interaction. We've focused on using them for good, to build better relationships, to lead teams, to engineer a more positive life. But every force has a dark side. The same principles that can be used to build can also be used to destroy. Malicious social engineers are hackers who don't target computer code, they target your brain's code. They use the same 6 keys we learned in Chapter 2, but they use them to manipulate you into giving up your money, your data, and your security. Learning to defend yourself isn't about becoming paranoid. It's about becoming aware. It's about installing a mental antivirus program that can spot these attacks before they do harm. Know your enemy, a field guide to common attacks. Let's quickly run through the most common traps you'll encounter in the digital wild. Phishing. This is the most common attack. The name says it all. Attackers are phishing for victims. They'll send a generic email to thousands of people, hoping a few will bite. Think of those classic emails from a Nigerian prince who needs your help. They are low effort, but can still work on the unsuspecting. Smishing is the sniper rifle to phishing's shotgun. Here the attacker does their homework. They'll look you up on social media, find out your boss's name, the project you're working on, or the holiday you just took. Then they'll craft a highly personalized email. Imagine getting an email from your CEO that says, "Hey, I know you're working hard on the Q3 report, but I need you to urgently process this invoice for our new vendor." It's far more believable because it feels personal. Pretexting. This is the art of creating a believable story, or pretext. The attacker will often call you pretending to be from your bank's fraud department, your IT support team, even the tax office.
They'll create a scenario that requires you to verify your identity by giving them your personal information. Smishing and vishing are just phishing attacks that happen over different channels. Smishing equals SMS, text message phishing. Vishing is voice, phone call phishing. It's the same game, just a different playing field. That text message from Royal Mail about an unpaid shipping fee, that's smishing. How they weaponize our psychology. So, how do these attacks work so well? They exploit the exact same mental shortcuts we've been discussing. They use authority by impersonating your bank, your boss, or the government. The official-looking logo in the email I received was designed to trigger my automatic trust in YouTube. They use urgency and scarcity by creating a sense of panic. Your account will be suspended in 24 hours. This invoice is overdue. They want to rush you into making a mistake before the logical part of your brain has time to engage. They use your own desire to be helpful. That call from IT support works because you want to be a cooperative employee. Building your shield, the SLOW protocol. You don't need to be a cybersecurity expert to protect yourself. You just need a simple, robust system to follow whenever you feel pressured or suspicious. I call it the SLOW protocol. S, stop. This is the single most important step. The attacker's greatest weapon is your sense of urgency. Your greatest defense is the pause. The moment you feel a sense of panic, urgency, or even intense curiosity from a message, stop. Do not click, do not reply, do not call back. Just take one deep breath. L. Look closer. Now that you've paused, become a detective. Scrutinize the message. Check the sender. Hover over the email address or phone number. Does it look legitimate? CEO@mycompany.com is not the same as CEO.mycompany@gmail.com. Look for errors. Banks and tech companies have teams of professional copywriters. Scams often have weird grammar, spelling mistakes, or slightly off formatting. Hover, don't click. On a computer, you can hover your mouse over a link to see the actual destination URL before you click it. If the link text says yourbank.com, but the preview shows totallynotascam.ru, you found the trap. Open a new channel. This is the killer move that defeats almost every attack. Never ever use the contact information provided in the suspicious message. If you get a scary email from your bank, don't click the link in the email or call the number in the email. Close the message, open a new tab in your browser, type in your bank's official website address yourself, log in, and check for any notifications there. If you get a weird text from your mom, don't click the link. Pick up the phone and call her on the number you already have saved. This is called out-of-band verification, and it's your silver bullet. Warn others. If you spot a scam, you've developed an immunity. The best thing you can do is help create herd immunity. Forward the phishing email to your company's IT department. Tell your family or friends about the new scam text that's going around. By sharing the knowledge, you make the world a slightly safer place for everyone. This isn't about making you afraid of the digital world. It's about empowering you to navigate it safely. By understanding the psychology behind the attacks and having a simple system like SLOW to fall back on, you can turn their greatest weapons into your strongest shields. Your challenge: for the next week, I want you to treat every unexpected request for information or action with healthy suspicion. Practice the SLOW protocol on at least one email or text, even if you're 99% sure it's legitimate. Get used to the feeling of pausing and verifying. You're not just protecting your data, you're training your mind.
Chapter 10. The Lifelong Learner. Continuously honing your skills. When I was about 12 years old, I decided I wanted to learn the guitar. I had this romantic vision of myself, effortlessly strumming songs around a campfire, being the cool guy who could just pick up an instrument and play. My parents got me a cheap, second-hand acoustic guitar for my birthday. For the first week, I was obsessed.
I learned the G, C, and D chords. My fingertips were sore, but I could clumsily play the opening to Wonderwall, which, as far as I was concerned, meant I was basically Noel Gallagher. And then I hit a plateau. Learning the F chord, the dreaded F chord, was impossible. My fingers just wouldn't contort into the right shape. It sounded like a strangled cat every time I tried. For the first time, it wasn't fun anymore. It was work. So I did what millions of aspiring guitarists do. I played Wonderwall a few more times, got frustrated with the F chord again, and then slowly but surely, the guitar started gathering dust in the corner of my room. My journey ended right when it was supposed to be getting interesting. I thought learning a skill was a straight line. I didn't realize it was a series of plateaus, breakthroughs, and, most importantly, consistent practice. You've finished the tutorial. Now the game begins. If you've read this far, congratulations, you have officially completed the tutorial level of The Art of Human Hacking. You've learned the cheat codes from Dr. Cialdini, you've assembled your toolkit for building rapport and having great conversations, and you've built a shield to protect yourself from the dark side of influence. But my goal for you was never just to read a book, it's to help you build a skill. And skills, just like my ill-fated guitar career, are not built through passive consumption. They are forged through active practice. The single biggest mistake people make after reading a book like this is thinking, that was interesting, and then changing absolutely nothing about their life. They get a temporary hit of inspiration, but they don't do the reps. We're not going to let that happen to you. The great myth is that people who are brilliant conversationalists, inspiring leaders, or incredible networkers are just naturals. It's nonsense. They might have had a head start, but the people who are truly exceptional are the ones who treat social skills like any other skill. They practice deliberately, they learn from their mistakes, and they are always trying to level up. They are lifelong learners. This chapter is your training plan. It's your bridge from knowing to doing. The 30-Day Human Hacking Challenge. To help you turn these concepts into ingrained habits, I've designed a 30-day challenge. The goal is simple. Perform one small, deliberate action each day. It's a way to gamify your practice and build momentum. Pin this to your wall. Put it in your Notion dashboard. Do whatever it takes. Just commit to doing the reps. Week 1. Hacking likability. Day 1. Use the triple threat smile on 3 different people today. Day 2. Practice the name remembering stack on the next new person you meet. Day 3. Give one person a sincere, specific compliment. Day 4. Watch 10 minutes of TV on mute, Chapter 7, and try to guess what's happening. Day 5. When talking to someone, consciously check your posture. Use the Open and Up protocol, Chapter 4. Day 6. Identify a moment where someone uses social proof on you. Example, an ad with testimonials. Day 7. Reflect. Which of this week's exercises felt the most unnatural? Why? Week 2. The Art of Conversation. Day 8. Play the Don't Say I game, Chapter 5, for the first 5 minutes of a conversation. Day 9. Ask someone an open-ended, what was the highlight question, Chapter 6. Day 10. The next time someone tells you a story, use a level 1 mirroring phrase like, so it sounds like, Chapter 5. Day 11. Ask a friend or colleague one of the emergency toolkit questions from Chapter 6. Day 12. Listen for the music behind the words. Try to identify one person's emotional state from their tone of voice. Day 13. When you feel the urge to give advice, pause and ask a clarifying question instead. Day 14. Reflect. What was the most interesting thing you learned about someone else this week? Week 3. Mastering influence ethically. Day 15. Do a small, unsolicited favor for someone. Reciprocity. Day 16, consciously mirror the body language of someone you're talking to for 30 seconds to build rapport. Day 17, practice ego suspension, Chapter 3. Let someone else be right, even if you disagree on a small point. Day 18, before making a request, run it through the three-way win framework, Chapter 8. Day 19, spot an example of scarcity in marketing. Day 20, spot an example of authority being used. Example, a doctor-recommended product. Day 21, reflect. How did it feel to consciously use a principle of influence for a positive outcome? Week 4, building your defenses and consolidating. Day 22, practice the SLOW protocol on an email in your inbox, even a safe one. Day 23, teach one concept from this book to a friend. The best way to learn is to teach. Day 24, identify your personal tell when you get nervous. Example, fidgeting, talking fast. Just notice it. Day 25, reread your favorite chapter from this book. Day 26, go back to day 1. Use the triple threat smile again. Notice if it feels any more natural. Day 27, think of a goal you have. How could the skills in this book help you achieve it? Day 28, ask for feedback. Ask a trusted friend or colleague, what's one thing I could do to be a better listener? Day 29, forgive yourself for a recent awkward social interaction. See it as data, not a failure. Day 30, reflect. What is the single biggest change you've noticed in how you interact with people in the last 30 days? Your Journey to Mastery, a reading list. This book is a starting point. If you've got the bug and want to go deeper, here are some of the resources that have had the biggest impact on me. Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion by Robert Cialdini. This is the Bible. If you read only one other book, make it this one. How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie, a timeless classic for a reason. The principles are as relevant today as they were in 1936. Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. A former FBI hostage negotiator teaches you about empathy, listening, and persuasion when the stakes are incredibly high. The Like Switch by Jack Schafer and Marvin Carlins, another ex-FBI agent's guide to reading people and building rapport. The Feel Good Productivity Podcast. Okay, a little self-promo, but on my podcast, I often interview psychologists, communication coaches, and other experts who dive deep into these topics. A final thought. The secret to a more productive life isn't just about managing your time better. It's about managing your relationships better. The secret to a more meaningful life isn't found in an app. It's found in the quality of your connections with other people. By picking up this book, you started a journey to upgrade the most important skill you'll ever have, the ability to understand, connect with, and positively influence the people around you. It's a journey that will unlock doors you never knew existed in your career, in your relationships, and in your own self-confidence. It won't always be easy. You'll have your own F-chord moments where you feel awkward or clumsy, but don't let the guitar gather dust in the corner. Keep practicing. Stay curious. Be patient with yourself. You have the tools. You have the mindset. Now go out there and build a more connected, productive, and meaningful life, one conversation at a time.